In this video, we're going to talk about developing yourself as a character. So when you're writing memoir, everyone in your memoir is a character. In many ways, the reason we read memoir is to understand the human experience. We want to get drawn into a true life story. We want to understand what you experienced, feel what you felt, and understand the choices that you made so that we learn something about ourselves in the process. So everyone in your memoir is a character, as if they were in a novel, and you are the lead. That means your family, your friends, your boss, any person you encounter, they're also characters. And the relationships between you as the lead character and those people tell us, again, something about the human experience. Relationships are endlessly fascinating. So great memoirs develop memorable, engaging characters. Now, I've read widely in creating this presentation, so I've drawn not just on my training as an author accelerator coach, but on many writings about memoir, particularly by Jenny Nash, the founder of Author Accelerator, Marion Roach Smith, coaches Linda Joey Myers, Shari Caudron, and also Jane Friedman, who writes a lot about writing in general. So there's plenty of resources you can look up if you would like to learn more about character as part of memoir. So let's talk about creating character. A reader needs to be invested in your story. Otherwise, why would they bother or care enough to actually spend time reading it? So that means they need relatable characters that they care about. They need to identify with you as the lead to understand who you are and what makes you tick, what you really want, what's keeping you from having it, so the obstacles or problems in your way. And they want to see you overcome those challenges. They want to know that there's an outcome at the end of it all and that you grow and change along the way, just as a novel lead will grow and change along the way, or a movie character. So in a memoir, your character, you, will face both an internal and an external journey. So the external is what happens, the events in the plot, but the internal journey is about how you change along the way. And that's something you often don't realize right in the moment, but you might realize with time and perspective. We'll talk more about this in subsequent lessons. So how can you develop yourself as a character? Well, first of all, you need to show them who you are. And one of the ways that you can do this is to help your reader get to know you by gently and gradually revealing little details. So you can use your senses to show rather than tell. So what you choose to share and why you share it matters because it tells us something about who you are as a character. So you can use your senses to create those vivid descriptions that show us rather than tell us who you are. So, for example, you might use your sight. You might tell us things about your appearance. I use the term they, the pronoun they here rather than you, because it's not just you as a character in your book. Other people that appear in your memoir will also be characters. So I'm talking about both here. But obviously yourself as lead is one of the most important characters to develop, or the most important character to develop. So you can look at appearances, how they look, how they move, how they stand, their posture. We can reveal all sorts of things just by sight. And then there's sound. So the way that they talk, their accent, the way they laugh, the way they sneeze, their patterns of speech. So little phrases that they might repeat that tell them something about you. I mean, we can all share phrases that our parents might have used repeatedly when we were children, like clean your plate or did you grow up in a barn? So things like that can reveal something about the character as well. Perhaps the way they grind their teeth or snore, the sound of their footfall could tell you something about perhaps their strength or a limp that they might have. The heavy way they tap the keyboard or play the piano. Details like this can bring your writing to life, and they can tell us something about the person as well. And then there's smell. So perhaps the perfume that they use, the bread they bake, that should say, the bubble bath they choose, the smell of sweaty teenage boys in the back of the car on the way home from sports practice, the smell of their cigarettes, tobacco or vape, coffee breath, smoke in their hair. Not all these things are pleasant, of course, but little tiny details can reveal something about the person. Then there's touch, so the texture of their hair or the skin or their clothes. If they really like wearing velvets and soft mohairs, that can say something about a person, although mohair can be scratchy when I think about it. The gentleness of the way they touch something, touch an animal, touch a baby, the way they like to splash their fingers in the water or cup something in their hands. And then there's taste, so the food that they regularly cook, their favourite recipe, the taste of their kisses, all of these things are ways that you can bring a character to life. Now, I don't want you to get too hung up on this for now, but just to be thinking as you write about how you can use your senses to show us something about that person. Expressions on their face is another one. Now, then there's habits and quirks. So these can also reveal something deeper about who your character is or what they're struggling with. And they also make your characters relatable. We've all got our little annoying habits that our kids or partners or friends might point out, or parents even, and they can tell us something. So if you wanted to show that someone is, say, anxious or religious, how could you show that? Through their habits and their quirks. Perhaps they grasp a crucifix when they're nervous, a crucifix on a chain around their neck. Perhaps they tap on their rings, or perhaps they are always washing their hands. Maybe it's the way you stick your tongue out when you're drawing, that habit of praying for a car park, or never drinking coffee on an empty stomach, or never fully peeling back the foil layer on a tub of sour cream. I might be talking about myself here. Or the messiness or order of a desk. These things can reveal something, always in the context of the wider story, but think about how you can bring these into your writing. Now, another way you can show character is by thinking about the beliefs that they hold, or that you hold, that might have informed the way you responded to a particular situation. So these might not be events that you actually explore in your memoir, but they might be flashbacks or things that you draw upon in showing why your character responded the way they did to a certain event. So it could be where you grew up, what you do for a job, the education you had, religion again, or defining childhood events. I remember, this has stuck with me probably for 30 years. I remember reading a book about women and money. I believe it was by, I'm going to say her name is Susie, and I'm going to look her up. She was on Oprah, and she had written a book about women and money, and she told the story about how her father had been he'd run his own business. And Susie Orman, that's her name, Susie Orman. And you can tell I'm just thinking of this on the fly while I'm recording this presentation. But her father they'd been self-employed, run their own business, and things were difficult. And when she was a child, I believe their house was burning down, and her father ran back into the burning house, or maybe it was the store was burning down, and her father ran back inside to grab the cash register, risking his life to grab the money. Now that is my off-the-cuff recollection of a story I read 30 years ago, but it's really stuck with me as a powerful moment that she said informed her beliefs around money and why it was so vital that her father was willing to do this in order to have the money. So something like that can really be a pivotal event that you tell that shows how you shaped that belief, how it informed your actions in later life. I'm going to apologize to Susie Orman for thinking of that off the cuff, but it came to me just while I was speaking to this slide. So how have your background, your beliefs shaped your perspective on the story? Now, another way to develop yourself as character is through the feelings. So feelings and emotions build connection between a character and the reader. Now, we're not always aware of what we're feeling in the moment of a specific event. Self-awareness comes in time. So the point at which you are telling this story, the day afterwards, 10 years later, for example, will impact your degree of self-awareness and your understanding of what was really going on at that time. But even if in the moment that you're telling the story, you can't name the feeling that you're experiencing, you don't know that it's loss or guilt or fear or anxiety, you can show us that you were experiencing that by the details that you share. So there's a supplementary video that I will also share in the with this one that on how to show and tell. If you want to take this deeper in your writing, it's more of a craft video, but again, the senses really are your friends in showing us what you are feeling, even if you can't name it or put your finger on it in that moment. Even if the character, couldn't, you now as the writer know what was going on, but you didn't in that moment. Now, it's really important to developing yourself as a character to show how you grow and change. You are not the same person at the end of the memoir as you were at the beginning. So, as you're planning out your story, think about what you know and feel and believe at each stage. And again, we'll be going into this in more detail in a later module. But that's important to be thinking about that growth. It's that reflection that comes with the writing, oftentimes, that can help us to move that character through and show your development. So, your task for this module is to create character files for you and your main characters in your memoir. You might like to add a photo of yourself at that time. I've met writers who have whole vision boards above their desk about what they're writing about to help put them in that place. And that can be a really powerful way to just remind yourself who you were back then. You can use your senses for vivid descriptions, add any quirks and habits that you had, and add any pivotal beliefs and events that you think have informed the way that you respond to this story, this memoir. Now, these will be living documents, so I'm not expecting you to be able to develop a full-blown character file at this point, but I want you to start just jotting these notes down on your phone, or it could be in a Google Doc, wherever works for you. But if you start jotting them down now and adding to them, you can start to build really vivid characters who grow and change as they move through your memoir. And that's your homework for today. Bye-bye.